So in this video, I'm going to show you how to do some SVG line animation using SVGator. Just to give you an example of what we're going to do in this video, I have the example of the animation I did on SVGator, and it looks like this. It's pretty basic, but it looks nice, and of course you can combine it with other type of animation, like you could animate the fill or do it would be very creative. So it's a cool technique that I'm going to show you, and I hope it's going to give you some idea like how you can do some cool animation with your SVGs. So let's get started. Before anything, we need to create an SVG that we can then animate on SVGator. So to get started, I got Inkscape open. It's a good program that is open source and free that you can use to create your own SVGs. But to get started, I'm gonna pick the font and create some text. I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna write my text here. I'm gonna write IPFS. It's gonna be the text that I want to animate. Now I can modify it a little bit, make it a bit smaller. So I need to modify it a little bit so that we can show the outline. I'm gonna go in Fill and Stroke. I'm gonna remove the fill. The fill is all the stuff inside the letter. And we don't really want it because we want it to be invisible. So I'm gonna remove it. In the stroke, however, I'm gonna put a value. The color black is good, I think. I'm gonna keep it. In stroke style, I want 1 millimeter, just to make it bigger and make the animation more visible. And now we got our SVG, but there's still some modification that we need to do. The animation of the exterior of the outline is done to the path, so we need to convert this text into a path. So I'm gonna go in path and go on Object to Path, and now I can save it. It's worth saying also, if you're using SVGator and you want to save your SVG, by default it's gonna save as an Inkscape SVG, but what you want is a plain SVG. So now we're ready to go on SVGator and animate this SVG. I am now in SVGator. I created a new project with my SVG that I created in the previous step. So what we want to do now is just do our animation. It's very simple. I'm gonna show you the steps, and then after that I'm gonna show you what is happening behind the scenes, because it's a little bit weird. So as you can see on the left side of the program, SVGator, there's these 4 paths, and each path corresponds to a letter, and you're gonna animate each letter individually. So I'm gonna select this one, which corresponds to the first letter, the I. On the left, I'm gonna go on the properties and find dashes, offset, and the path length. That's the property we want. The path length is the length of the lines that compose my letter. So I'm gonna copy that and use it as set as offset. And also I'm gonna copy this in dashes, which is the length of the dashes. I'm gonna explain that afterward, don't worry. So now that this is set up, the letter becomes invisible, which is what we want. We want to make it visible gradually. So we're gonna now animate it. We're gonna click here and put a offset animation, stroke offset. Take that. We're gonna go to maybe 1 second, and we're gonna change our offset value to 0, and the letters will appear. Indeed, it appears. And if I rewind the time, I see that it's animated. It goes from no line to showing the full letter. So let's just do play to see what it looks like. I think it looks pretty good. Now we can also animate the other letter. It's really simple to do, but what I want is have the first letter appear, and after that the P1, and I want to create a cascading effect. So I'm gonna go here on the P side and do the same steps. I'm gonna click on Set as Offsets, copy the dashes, and select my P, and I'm gonna add a new stroke offset animation. I'm gonna start it like in the middle here, just to create a cool effect. And I'm gonna go maybe 1 second later, or maybe here. And I'm gonna put the offset at 0. Maybe I can make this a bit longer. Let's just see what it looks like. I think it looks nice. However, it seems to pop a little bit fast, in my opinion, the letter P. I'm gonna make it longer. That's pretty good. Yeah, a bit longer even. That's pretty good. Yeah. So to make things a bit better organized, I can find the path and put the name. Like here, I can call it letter I. And it's gonna be easier for me to stay organized. Letter F. Continue here. Letter S. Now all that is remaining to do is to animate the other letters. I'm gonna let's skip to the end result. So now I finished the animation. Let's just look at it. I think it looks pretty good. And as you can see, it was very easy to do. All we had to do was change one value, which is the stroke offset, and it animated our SVG. But maybe you're wondering, like, what is going on? What is this stroke dash? What is this stroke offset? And you want to understand things a little bit better. So stay tuned. I'm gonna show you an interesting blog post that's gonna explain it to you. So here's a blog post of CSStrix.com that's called "How SVG line animation works," and it's going to explain what we just did. And I'm gonna have the link for that in the description, of course. But just to go here, it is show you have an SVG shape, which is in our case a letter. The shape must have a stroke, that one. And now the stroke can have dashes, okay? Here we see that it has dashes, and that the dash array property, which is the dashes property in SVGator, determines the length of the dash. And so here you show that you can make the dash longer, and that you can offset the stroke, which simply means that instead of starting here, it starts here. So in the SVGator, if I increase the offset gradually, then my line is going to move this way. And now the sixth step. Imagine a dash so long it covers the entire shape. That's what we did here. We took the path length and we made the dashes the same distance. So what we did, we created a long dash that is the same length as the entire SVG item. 7. Now offset the stroke that instead of covering the entire shape, it does not cover the entire shape. And that's what we did. If I go at the beginning of the letter I, that's what it did. I offsetted the dashes by the entire length, and that's why it became invisible. And now I animate the stroke back to 0. And by animating back to 0, it just goes to showing the entire stroke. And that's how it works. If you want to read this blog post, which is really good and I recommend, I'm gonna have of course, the link in the description. But for this tutorial, that's it. I hope it was useful to you and that you can now use these techniques in your own project. Of course, if you like this video, like and subscribe.